Um, so we're going to kind of look at the kind of RAD Mobile, and I'll mention a little bit about the IoT side as well, and the development that we're doing with the Embarcadero tools. I managed to get a quick hello from these two guys, but it'd be nice because we're quite a small group just to know just quickly what you're kind of doing and why you're here. So, yeah.
I'm from Denmark. We work in C#,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I know DevWeek
from a long time ago. Cool. No, that's fine. What about yourself?
Looks like they've been using Boolean products since Pascal 3.
Cool, blimey. That was even before I was coding, I think.
Yeah, various things. I moved in our company to doing mobile stuff, using Delphi on a number of things that I've done, controlling subsea systems,
Okay.
controlling robots, all sorts of things.
Okay,
and it
cool.
just makes things really easy.
Cool.
I'm from Switzerland.
Okay.
.NET developer. I don't do mobile,
Okay.
but
Interesting to see what we're doing.
interested in
Okay, cool. What about yourself?
Okay.
I ask you just as you put a bit of food in your mouth. I'm sorry. It was
Developer
okay.
from London.
Okay.
So obviously .NET. It seems that that's the only platform we use here in London. Work for the train line.
Okay.
So we obviously do a bit of web. But
Okay.
I'm mostly the back end guy. I do web full time.
Okay. Cool. Hey. Welcome. That's right. We chatted the other day, so that's cool. Okay, so my name's Stephen Ball. The Americans call us product evangelists. In Europe, we tend to call technical consultants or whatever you want to call us. But I'm a RAD tool expert, and I'm also the product manager for Interbase, which is our very lightweight, small embeddable database that's used in kind of POS systems and used in medical systems, and there's even a copy of it running around Mars because it was a bit too far to send to DBA. So we kind of get around a bit. If you are on Twitter, then feel free to hook up with me if there's any questions you want to ask and don't feel like asking it here. Please just do shout, it's fine. So one of the challenges we face today around development is purely around the kind of the platitude of devices that are out there now that we're having to work with. And a lot of that comes from the fact that people use different devices at different times of the day. So we're no longer living in a world that is, as we know, that was kind of dominated for a couple of decades by Microsoft. iOS and Android are two additional platforms we have to work with. Myself, I've got an Android phone, but I've got an iPad which I use. So you do find that everybody's working on a lot of different kind of platforms. But to get the coverage and the mobilisation of workforces, you need to be able to cover the different types of devices, which kind of brings in additional challenges around skill sets and learning of different platforms, their peculiarities between them, and so on as well. And at Embarcadero, we've been working really to make sure that we can provide developers a very easy way to get out onto all the different platforms that you need to get to today, kind of Windows, Mac, iOS and Android, using a single code base, using a single IDE, using a single framework, extracting away the need, although you still can get there if you need to learn the different SDKs and the frameworks and the development tools for every different platform. The original Delphi product, when it was launched by Borland many years ago, was kind of changed the way the R&D RAD products kind of came to market, and I think it's really quite cool to see the way that the RAD Studio products are now kind of doing the same again, but in terms of breaking ground onto multiple platforms, especially around mobile. Now, these tools, as I said, Embarcadero, everybody going, unless you're from kind of a Spanish descent and you can actually say the name properly. Embarcadero, apparently it's where you get on a ship or something. But most people in the UK or around kind of go, Embarca what? The development tools are basically brought to you by the same guys who brought JBuilder and C++ and Turbo Pascal, which you kind of mentioned earlier as well. to the market kind of many years ago. So over 20 years experience of bringing RAD development tools to the market. We've got millions of customers worldwide, and we've actually got now probably our biggest R&D centre is actually down in Alicante in Spain. We have a huge R&D presence still over in Scots Valley where the senior leads are, but we have a really big community down in Spain as well. Now, the primary benefit of using the approach that we have is about being able to basically code a lot faster and get stuff out to market in a lot quicker time. And because you're doing the stuff once, when you then need to get it across onto multiple platforms, it's literally a case of just adding the target platform, recompiling, and off you go. So rather than having to have 2 QA cycles, rather than having to have 2 backlogs for different products that you're working your way through, even though they're trying to do the same thing, with our approach, you're able to just do it once and get there really, really quickly and easily, which is great. Also, our apps are very fast. Because they're compiled applications, we use the same compiler that Xcode uses for getting out onto iOS and onto Mac. We also use the same framework, the LLVM framework, for getting out onto Android. And that means we're actually compiling applications onto Android down to the NDK layer, which is what the games developers use because it's faster than running through the Java layer. We also have a complete development platform, everything from the user interface through to the back-end services, connecting to databases. We have database connectivity components, for example, FireDAC. And we've had people who've moved from connecting to SQL Server databases using ADO onto FireDAC and have reported that it's 20% quicker overnight without having to turn on any of the advanced options, which allow you to kind of get even faster still. So some exceptionally fast apps made very, very fast. So to kind of highlight the approach when you're having to develop across multiple platforms. If we start with iOS, we do our code, we hit the APIs, everything's done. And then typically when you want to kind of then do the same work onto multiple platforms, you're kind of redoing a lot of the same work again to be able to talk to those devices. So if you're talking to the camera, or if you're talking to Bluetooth, or if you're doing REST API calls, the stack is different on every single platform. And what we've done is using really, really strong object-oriented programming techniques, using interfaces, using a decent set of components, we're able to provide a component layer that you develop to, which then targets out onto iOS. You can still call directly to the iOS layer if you need to, but then we repeat the same process across all multiple platforms. So you've already coded to the components, so guess what? They then work across the multiple platforms. So basically, if you have a contract here, an interface, I'm sure we all know what an interface is, but if you don't, imagine a steering wheel in a car. You can turn it left, you can turn it right. You can put the same steering wheel on a boat, and you can turn it left and you can turn it right. The objects underneath a boat or a car are very, very different. One's got wheels that turns, the other one turns a propeller. The implementation is very different. But as a driver, you just need to know how to turn left and turn right. And we're able to use kind of components and abstraction layers underneath to be able to ensure that on iOS you actually get returned back an iOS object that talks to the accelerometer or the compass or the camera or whatever. On Android you get exactly the same. You get an Android object that talks to the Android compasses and accelerometers and so on. And the same throughout all the platforms. And because every device is different, not all capabilities are the same, you can query for the supported interfaces at runtime to work out what the actual device supports, to make it very, very easy to code specifically for the device that you're targeting out to. And I say, we have the full stack through from the user interface through to the enterprise middleware, and being able to we've got some really cool stuff in that space now with EMS that allows you to basically build middleware that does a whole load of analytics and tracking that's automatically there. So if you think some of these great cloud services, you can actually go host that privately yourself and have that full analytics through your product. All the way through to the exceptionally fast database connectivity, connections to a number of the popular back-end as a service providers and so on. And as I say, all of this using either C++ or Object Pascal, the kind of the Delphi language. And we are doing an awful lot around IoT at the moment. If you have a look at one of our product marketing guys, a guy called Brian, who's got a really popular blog now, where he's kind of hooking up to the Philips Hue lighting and managing and controlling the colours of the lights changing internally, opening and closing doors, loads of things around hooking out to kind of the Moto 360, and you name the kind of different devices and bits that are out there now. There's examples of all of that kind of stuff on the website, and a huge amount of sample apps that come with the product as well. So as I want to take a break from slides, I want to just kind of jump into the IDE and just go build some stuff. So this theory you heard about with kind of building the components and having those just work across the multiple platforms, you can see with our full native code. So I'm just going to explain my setup here. I've actually got a Mac. The reason for that is to be able to compile anything to run on an iOS device, you need to have Apple hardware. If anybody tells you otherwise, then they're not giving you a proper native application. Once you've compiled your application, it has to be code signed on Apple hardware to then be allowed to run on the device. It's part of the licensing laws that come from Apple, so hence I've got an Apple device here. But on my Apple machine, I have got a Windows VM. And in here, I have got my IDE. And I'm just going to go close this now. And I'm just going to go build a new C++ application from scratch. And I'm just going to do an application really quickly that's going to take a picture and be able to share it. Okay? So we'll be able to share it through Twitter, through Facebook, or whatever else like that. So this is the IDE, and we can see we've got a blank application here. I could have started with a template, but I'm just going to build one from scratch. And let's start off by putting a toolbar down. I'm going to have a toolbar at the top of my screen. And I'm going to have a label in my toolbar, which I want to go ahead and just align this. I'm going to align it to the contents of the container that it's sat in. And let's go and change the text of it to be something sensible like my cool app. And let's just align that into the center. Now I'm going to use an option we have called star lookup. Now on different platforms you get different looks and feels. So we're actually going to tell this that it's a toolbar label. And if I kind of go flick through here and have a look at iOS, you can see that it's going to look like an iOS toolbar label. If I look on Mac or Android, it's going to look different again. So I'm able to actually, without having to do any code, have that control render correctly for each platform. And specifically for the type of location that control is sitting in. I'm also going to put down another toolbar, which this time I'm going to align to the bottom. And I'm going to tell this that it's a toolbar style as well. In fact, if I go to iOS, and I should just be able to tell it's a bottom toolbar style. So that provides a slightly different look and feel. Again, if it's not available on the platform, it will just default to the basic standard one. But that means I get the correct bottom look and feel for a toolbar. Let's go down and put a button on here. So I want to take a picture. So we'll have a button to do that. And again, I can go ahead and I can use a style here to take a picture, or to indicate that to the end user that that's what they're going to be doing. There we are. And let's just go and align that in the center. And need somewhere to put the picture, so maybe an image control would be a good place to do that. So let's align that to the client. So using the alignments, you can see, if I change the screen size around here a bit, that's all kind of looking good. There's padding and margins that you can apply to the controls to ensure that you've got spacing around the edges. For example, if I wanted to put some spacing around this, then I can bring that in 5 pixels or 5 points, depending where I'm going to. I can also kind of change layout depending on the platform. I can add in, for example, let's say I wanted to have a specific iPhone view, then I can come in here and I can start making changes to here, which are then specific for that target, rather than having to do them, I can use the base template and then modify for the different platforms as well, which is pretty cool. As I'm not going to deploy out to one, I'm just going to remove that for now. So I haven't done any code yet, but we need to actually take the picture and we need to share it. So I'm going to need another button. And let's put one of those up here. And let's align that to the right. And again, just going to go user style and just to tell it's an action. And I'm actually going to put down an action list now, which is going to help access some of these actions for me. So I'm just going to do a new standard action. I've got a show share sheet, which is one of them. You've got to be careful how you say that one. New show share sheet. Go on, give it a try. It's really fun. So I'm going to hook that up to this button here. That's going to invoke the share sheet. I'm going to add in another standard action, which will be take photo from camera. There's also pick photo from the library. So if you've got saved pictures on the camera, you can go pick those up. The show share sheet one, there's an on before execute event here. So I actually want to go ahead and put some code in there, and I'm going to tell it to set the show share sheet action, and this has a bitmap property, and I'm just going to go and assign to the bitmap the image control bitmap. So it's going to take the picture I've got on here, just to pass it to the show share sheet action. If I use the take photo from camera action, there's different events in here. So on did, finish, taking. So I can go and do something with that. And just really easily, I'm getting an image being passed in here. So I'm just going to say image control 1. That has the bitmap, which we're going to populate first with the image that's being passed in. So that is it. So all I need to do now is just go and choose where I want to target this out to. So I'm just going to target this out onto my iOS device, which is showing here in my list. The way that shows is we use a little bit of magic called PA Server. So out on my Mac here, I've got PA Server running, which is just basically a command tool, which you open up. There's a GUI interface for it as well if you want to use that. But that acts as the bridge from the IDE to a target device. So the first thing, remember I said we have to get the application code signed on the Apple device before it will actually run on the device. So from here, all I need to do is literally run a build. And I've got it in debug mode at the moment, which means it'll do all the debug stuff as well with it, which kind of doubles the size of the executable whilst you're developing, but it allows you to do all the full debugging. And then once that's built, I can then just run it out onto my device. So I can just hit run. And that's now deploying it onto the Mac, code signing it, and we'll launch it out onto my iPad, which I've got Reflector open here, so let's go ahead and turn the mirroring on. So there's my cool app with my little border around the edges of it, and I can go ahead and take a picture. Or can I? Did I connect up my button to the... That would be quite funny if I didn't. No, I need to connect the action for taking the photo to the button, otherwise it's going to do nothing. So let's try and rerun that out onto the device. So that's now deploying, and that should launch up automatically on my device in a moment. I'll just put it there so you can see the whole thing as I see it here. This is my application. You can modify the splash screens, do whatever you want with those. And now I should just be able to tap the button, and up comes the camera. Hey. And we can get, I think this is a really good example of recursive code. So we can say, well, let's use that photo. And now I can go ahead and hit the share sheet button. And it's now giving me the options that are there for sending it by message, for email, Twitter, Facebook, whatever's connected in. I can save the photo down. So let's just go ahead and I'll send this one out by Twitter. So okay, so that's kind of cool. So now what do I need to do to get it onto Android, I hear you saying? Well, literally, I'm just going to unplug this little pointer device for a moment, plug this little cable in, plug my Android device into, connect it into Windows, and automatically you can see my Nexus 4 has appeared in the IDE as a target that's available. It uses ADB to pick up the devices, and I just need to hit run. Yep, go rebuild. It was still connected up on to the iPad, so that's now just kind of building the Android version. And once that's up and running, I'll pull it up and you can see exactly how that looks differently to what we're running on iOS. Android's always a little bit slower to get out onto, but we're there. So you have to excuse this. I wrote this little tool that just kind of screen scrapes, but it grabs about a frame a second because that's as fast as it can do a save to file and copy it off and load it up. But you can see immediately that the share icon in the top right corner here is the Android one. Let's wake it back up. The button down here for the camera, not done anything different, but that's the Android one. So I can go ahead and take the photo. You can see that's now invoking the Android camera. And I can do the same thing again, just see if it picks up my... It's a little bit slow at doing recursive code on this one, I'm afraid. There we are. We'll just do a couple, that'll do. So I can go ahead and I can save that. And then I can go ahead... you can probably just about see my screen there. It's a little bit quicker than the 1 a second. But that's now invoked the share sheet function on the Android device, which is completely different, but it's the correct sharing mechanism ready to go. So again, I could send that out via Twitter if I wanted to. That'll invoke the Twitter app and get everything ready to go for me automatically. So really simple example, but I hope you kind of get the picture of how it just kind of gets there and gets to the different platforms. We have a whole host of really, really clever controls that allow you to just work across different platforms. In fact, rather than opening up the code, I'll show you one of them very, very quickly. And I've got an application. I'm a basketball referee. And they've got some changes to the way that the shot clock works this year. And it's causing a lot of issues because there used to be just one time. It was 24 seconds or 30 seconds for the shot clock for the game. But now, depending if it's an offensive rebound or defensive, you get 14 seconds or 24. So I put together a quick application and got it running out onto iOS and Android very, very quickly. So literally just hit the start. There's kind of little drawer thing that comes in and out on the side here, which is a multi-view component. And if I kind of flick around, you can see that automatically appears out and doesn't go away. So that's kind of adapting to the screen, to the user interface. If you look at the little, just at the top left of that black area, there's no button there at the moment, but if I rotate it round, the button appears. It's all part of the multi-view. In fact, it's exactly the same as what you see with kind of email. You don't have something there, and then you got something there. So it's to do that within code, literally you can just say, right, let's have a new multi-device application. Let's put a blank one down. Let's put a multi-view down. Let's put a layout down. Align that into the client, and I'm just going to put a button down here for the moment. I should put it on the toolbar. But on the multi-view, then you just connect up to the master button, which then will appear, disappear, depending on the orientation. And then you have the target control, which is the layout. And that then can be managed to overlay or to push it across or whatever. So a lot of this functionality you just get for not having to do any code at all. But then that works the correct way across multiple platforms. We have things for platform services to make sure the tabs appear in the right place, because Android and iOS default to top and bottom in different ways. It'll automatically adjust those kind of things for you, or you can define that I always want it to be on the top because it's my design decision. All that kind of stuff is just really easy to do. But talking of kind of the basketball app, I wanted to just kind of show you the two elements of it. You've just seen the app on the iPad, and in fact I'm just going to open the same app on my Android phone here. So that's open and sat waiting. On the iPad, I'm going to open up the actual shot clock screen. So normally in the corner of each court you'd have a clock so they can be seen. And I've not had to do anything. I just literally said, right, hit the forwarding button, and it's updated my screen there. And in fact, if I just hit the start button here, you can see it's changed and it's working together, which is kind of cool. And I'll just turn up the sound. So once we hit 0, you'll see it go red in both places, and the sound should go. It's really quiet at the moment, but the kind of horn works. That is done using a technique we call app tethering. So I actually have in the main application, here, I've just got two components. I've got a tethering profile and a tethering manager. The tethering manager enables and manages the connection side of things. And on the profile, we have just a couple of resources here that are set up. One's the actual shot time, and the other one's the clock state. And these are set to mirror. So anytime we update those, they automatically are then distributed out to any connected controllers. So this is reading the mirror. On the other one, we have on the profile. Here they are shared. So we're saying these are ones that we're sharing out, and the other side is saying it's collecting the mirror of what's being shared. And then there's just an event for picking up when you get a new bit of data, and you can then code what you do with it. So here it's just literally set the label to the text we just received. So that's moving data straight across the network using very similar protocols to how Bluetooth sets up and discovers. We can also set that to run over Bluetooth as well, so you can run those kind of connections. But again, the connectivity for that is you put the components down and it will automatically discover. You then just say what to do when it does the discovery. That is literally the code for sharing that data. There is nothing in there else that you need to worry about. The only other part is the actual the setting of it, where that's the 2 lines there. You just set the resource by name to the value that you want it to be, and then on the other end, we're able to pick up that the time's been sent through and process it through, and yeah, that's it. You know, really is so simple. Okay, there's one last thing that I wanted to kind of just mention about, which is kind of another part of what we do with the whole kind of development side of things, and that's to do with the database side. And we've got a new technology that we've released out very recently for the database market called change views. Now, what change views allows you to do is to go ahead and build your application and then worry about how you're going to keep the data updated later on. So you build your database, you can have, interface runs on iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, Linux, Solaris. You can just go build your central server or have your data on your device, and then worry about how you pick up the data changes that you do at a later point. You don't need to put any date fields in, there's no locking of tables when you've got reads and writes going on or anything else like that. What you do is you create a subscription. So you, change views are a subscription-based model where you subscribe to specific data within the database. And once you set up the subscription, anybody can subscribe to that subscription who's got the access rights in the database to subscribe to the subscription. Subscriptions run during a connection or spanning connections. So I could go fetch my business data down onto my device. I could go off, work a whole load of do some stuff, get off a plane somewhere, open up, and I could then say, right, what's new? And I'm able to fetch just the delta down to the device. And that delta is fetched by running exactly the same SQL statement that I ran beforehand. So if I said select star from stock, and then later on I said, right, I've got all my data, and then I come back at 2 days later, I connect into the system, I activate my subscription, and run select star from stock, it's just going to give me the delta. I can actually say select star from stock where stock name is not same, or where stock name is changed. I could do select count from stock, find out how many change records there are before I go and do other stuff. So basically, rather than having to pick up a full data set every time because you're trying to identify the changes, we're able to eliminate it down just to those parts that are different. So you're able to, with change views, you're able to eliminate it just down to the actual deltas. So if you're interested in seeing that at some point, then please let me know and come over and see me at the stand during the next break, and I can show you the change view stuff working. Or get online. We've got a huge amount of stuff up on the community. So if you go to community.embarcadero.com, or if you go up to the YouTube channel, the Embarcadero Tech YouTube channel, there's a huge amount of stuff up there. We do skill sprints every Tuesday, and there's been a second series that's been running every Thursday that's just been around database connectivity. Our skill sprints are all 20-minute deep dive demos, the specific technical areas, taking you in. So if you want to get into those, then please do get onto the community site or the Embarcadero Tech site. I say, if you want to have a play with it, then just pop up onto the Embarcadero website. There's a free trial that you can go download. 30-day free trial, so please just go ahead and have a go. Any questions? Or? Okay, thanks very much.